Hi guys, this is Hirosaki. This story is all about what if Naruto was the Dark Phoenix of Konoha. Naruto has a big secret: he isn't the dead last he appears to be. But why would he show that before he is ready to deal with the stones the council loves placing in his way? The Sandaime, having opened his eyes, will do his best to make sure that Konoha will retain the will of fire. Before we start, kindly like and subscribe to this channel and look over the description box for the author of this amazing storyline. Welcome aboard. Chapter 25, Showing True Skill. It was 9:30 and Team 7 stood outside of the academy building. Their strategy was to not give too much away about their abilities, but also not shrinking away from a conflict if provoked. Though they would avoid unnecessary fights. Intimidation worked mostly much better than wasting energy before a test. They walked up 2 floors and found a big group of people trying to get past 2 other genins that seemed to block the room, trying to keep the competition out. Naruto signaled the others quickly to ignore the whole thing and walked on. Why would they put such a stupid genjutsu on the door? Sasuke asked. It was too easy to spot. Yeah, I mean, everybody with a bit of common sense should know that room 301 was on the 3rd floor, not the 2nd. Sakura agreed. I guess it is the first obstacle in the exams. Noticing the genjutsu. After all, if a ninja can't spot something as obvious as that, he doesn't deserve to become Chunin. Naruto stated and got nods from his teammates. They proceeded to the real room 301 and opened the doors. They noticed that a lot of genin had already found their way here and were now trying to intimidate the opposition. Not that it would work on Team 7. The killing intent of the other participants was pathetic compared to what they had dealt with in their training. Over the next half hour, more and more teams trickled into the room. Kiba caused a little commotion, greeting Teams 7 and 10 loudly. Naruto could only shake his head. Kurane still didn't manage to calm the boy down. He had thought that after the wake-up call mission that he had performed against the other rookies, they would work more on their flaws. Okay, perhaps it was just Kiba. He could sense that Shikamaru was much more serious than before and was observing the competition. Seemingly he had realized what being unprepared and not thinking about every little clue could cost you. Shino also was aware of his surroundings, and Hinata seemed to have grown more confident and determined again. She had got away lightly during the mission and had even managed to escape a trap. Though he had to admit she looked good in tight clothes. Though no spandex like the ones he had put into all the wardrobes in the Hyuga compound that day to force her to wear it to the meeting. That the other Hyugas had to run around in them before they could get new clothes was only an added bonus. It had improved their security measures next to the ones that the Hokage had ordered all clans to set up. Naruto had to grin about that. He liked being allowed to prank some stuck-up people to point out flaws in their security measures. While everything going on in the village had been kept a close secret, the clans didn't like to have flaws pointed out. It damaged their standing. Concerning Kiba's behavior, well, at least he wasn't an easy target to take out. An older genin called Kabuto came up and told them to be quieter. He then offered, as a veteran of the exams, to give them a little head up with his ninja info cards, which reacted to only his chakra. Naruto's eyes narrowed. Nobody would willingly give up valuable information in a test that was meant to be a competition among all the teams taking the test. Sharing with your teammates, okay, that was normal, but with people he didn't ever meet before, even if they were from the same village? He would have to keep an eye on this Kabuto Yakushi. He knew that he was on the list of suspected spies based on some irregularities in their files. Danzo had said that Kabuto had been recruited by Root when he had been younger. But there were some holes in his reports. Those could have been caused by Kabuto simply having to be careful while being deep cover, but it could also mean that somebody else had got to him and turned him into a traitor. Ino took the chance, as did Kiba, to get more information. Thankfully nobody asked about his information. It would be nice to keep a little surprise for later. He only interfered when the team from Oto attacked Kabuto. No matter how suspicious the guy was, for now he was a Konoha shinobi and that counted higher than shinobi from other villages. So 3 quick senbons later the Oto shinobi experienced the same feeling that Sakura and Ino had had the day the genin teams had been announced. 5 minutes of being paralyzed. I don't know what your sensei taught you, but it is unwise to attack a ninja from another village before the real test for your promotion has even started. Especially when there are many more ninjas from the village of the ninja you attacked. That doesn't show Chunin qualities in my eyes. Naruto stated calmly. Many now looked at him with interest. He simply needed to flare his killing intent a little to make sure they knew not to mess with him. His tactic was intimidation right now. Not searching attention, but using it when he had it anyway to his advantage. Thankfully the attention was soon turned to the front of the room where the proctors had appeared. The Oto genin only unfroze once it was time to draw numbers to determine the seat assignments for the written test that they had to do. The threw Naruto glares but kept quiet. The proctor Ibiki Marino gave them the rules for this test and Naruto had to hand it to the man. He was good at what he did. His intimidation methods worked really well. Naruto had a look at the questions that needed to be answered and immediately noticed that they were far above genin or chunin level. Probably Sakura and Shikamaru were the only ones capable of answering these questions right now. Which meant that this test had a hidden meaning. Probably information gathering. Well, that was coincidentally just his specialty. That and taking out competition. Naruto produced 4 already transformed shadow clones Seal and Smokeless and set them to work. The easiest way was turning them into flies. One found a planted chunin in the room and watched from the shoulder and dispelled after memorizing the answers. The other 3 were doing a bit of sabotage. After all, if you burned or shredded somebody else's test, that team was unable to continue. And retaliation was hard in this setup. So using some basic techniques like the one to start campfires or basic wind manipulation, Naruto disqualified 7 teams. It added to the stress level of the others in the room. Ibiki seemed to be strangely pleased. Finally the 45 minutes until the last question was asked were over. And of course they got a new set of rules that increased the massive stress level again. Confronted with the choice to take the question and risk staying a genin for the rest of your life if you answered wrong or quitting together with the rest of your team and try again in 6 months, Naruto was surprised how many weak-willed candidates had survived this far. Once one had broken there was a stream of others following behind. Naruto could only shake his head, especially at the foreign candidates. Promotions were handled by each village individually and many ninjas got their promotions in the field. There simply was no way that with an average of 8 to 10 finalists in each chunin exam the villages could cover their need of qualified soldiers. The exams were just the best opportunity to show off the abilities of the ninjas in a village. After some, foremost, nerve-wracking minutes there were no more that wanted to quit. Naruto had been sure that neither Sasuke nor Sakura would bail out. They were ready and they were the students of the next Hokage. No way that they would quit over something they were sure they could pass. Ibiki tried one last time to get more people to give up, but realized that the rest would take his question. He declared that they had all passed and listed the reasons why the test had been built like it had been. Naruto had to admit it was a good way to filter those of weak determination out. He could also see that Ibiki was keeping a close look on him. Did he figure out that he had been behind the sabotage? Well, no matter, Team 7 was going into the second round now. Now he only needed to make sure that each of the interesting remaining candidates got a seal that let him listen into their plans. He simply loved Fuinjutsu. Naruto signaled his 2 teammates that he needed to talk to them before going into the next test. So they used the time they had to get to training ground 44 to discuss a few things. Okay, I think the next part is survival against the other teams. I already sent some disguised shadow clones out to tag the interesting candidates with listening seals. That way we get an advantage. Naruto told them. Good thinking, Naruto. So we probably will be able to know the other team's plans, if they target us directly, and if they do we can turn them against our attackers. Sasuke analyzed. Yes. Now we need to ensure that we can identify each other in case we get separated in a fight. Take these. He said and handed each a small seal tag. Put them on a part of your body and the seal will connect to your chakra. Best would be a part that can't be seen by any others. So under your sleeve or pants leg is a good place, for example. The seal tags are connected and will last 2 weeks. We will get a tickle if another of the seal tags is close by. This way nobody can pretend to be us in the forest. Wow, that's really neat. Sakura said, impressed. Where did you get them? It's a joint work between me and Dark Phoenix that the Hokage ordered. We are sure that they will work, but this is also a test of the range they have. If they are good enough, the Umbu will get equipped with them for their missions next. I got permission to test them in the Chunin exams as it is the perfect opportunity to see how different chakra signatures around influence the seal. Naruto answered. You are working with Dark Phoenix? Sakura asked, surprised. Yes, I do. But don't ask me about his identity, I don't know, he is always disguised. But it's nice to work with another seal master. Naruto replied. So you were evaluated as a seal master? Sasuke asked. Yes. Jiraiya-sama confirmed my level when he tested me. Sealing is an art that is in my blood as an Uzumaki, but my father also had a huge talent in the area. So it's not that surprising that I took to it like a fish to water during my academy time. I spent a lot of my free time learning Fuinjutsu. Naruto confirmed. Sasuke and Sakura took the information and knew that it was important to keep it a secret. While it would come out sooner or later anyway, now that Naruto was revealed as the Yondaime Hokage's son, the longer it was a secret just which level he had, the better it was for missions and the village. They then reached the training ground where a lot of other teams were already assembled. The proctor, Anko Mitarashi, had left an impression after crashing through the window of their test room at the academy. That she wore really revealing clothes did the rest for at least the male participants of the exams. Once the time for assembling was up, Anko started telling them how the second test would work. They would get one of a set of scrolls each and would have to fight for the other one over the time limit of 5 days in the Forest of Death. Doable. They were all given waivers to sign to free Konoha from the responsibility if any of the participants died, which they would. This was probably the most dangerous part of the exams. The finals were controlled by a refereeing jonin who would step in if things were clear, which would reduce the death toll somewhat. After all, there were many noble guests watching them every time, and putting them off their lunch wasn't good for business. Naruto signed his quickly, followed by Sasuke and Sakura. He took the 3 waivers and got a heaven scroll. He went over to his team and they went to the gate that they had been assigned. Naruto quickly took out an empty scroll and let Sasuke put a genjutsu on it to make it look like their real scroll. Sakura was given the fake scroll while Naruto sealed the real one into a storage seal on his belt. Nobody would find it there as the ink wasn't visible on the black belt at all. They quickly discussed their strategy with a few hand signals. When the signal to start the second round came over loudspeaker, they jumped into action. Their plan was to find a secure location, listen into the teams that Naruto had put listening seals on, and then get as many scrolls as they could. The more scrolls they got, the less teams could pass. And this was their chance to prove themselves to their sensei. Orochimaru didn't know whether to be annoyed or amused. He hadn't managed to find Team 7 to test Sasuke like he had planned. But what he found were several beaten teams, some dead, some barely alive, and some simply knocked out. They all had lost their scrolls and the traces of the fights indicated a vastly superior team taking them out in quick fashion. As the trail of beaten teams was the same as Team 7's, he could safely assume that Sasuke was more than worthy to get his cursed seal. The interesting part was that each time when a team was beaten, many trails left from the position, so it made it more difficult to find the real team. If only he could catch the boy. But the team moved incredibly fast for Genin. It was difficult to keep following them as he had to avoid using too much of his chakra and alerting the proctors to him. He had infiltrated the exams with a lot of trouble and had only managed to sneak in because one of his hidden entrances was outside the newer barrier. He was sure that he could solve that problem until the planned invasion now that he was aware of it. It was exciting. It was much more enjoyable than he had thought Chunin exams could be for him. It was so much more rewarding to fight worthy prey. Because that was what Sasuke was to him, prey. He wanted Sasuke's body to get his Sharingan. But for the boy to come to him, he would need to place the curse seal on him. After all, he was a known traitor to Konoha, and without an incentive it would be too far-fetched to get Sasuke to comply. And the information his spy Kabuto had given him on Sasuke told him that Sasuke's ultimate goal was getting revenge for the Uchiha massacre by killing his brother Itachi. Now there was only the problem of finding the boy. "We are being followed by a Kunoichi," Naruto informed his teammates. "Why would someone from Kusa try to get to us?" Sakura asked. "No idea. But something is off. We should distract her and get a good distance between us," Naruto said. "I agree. How about you make some shadow clones again and let them transform to look like our team? Let her think that we simply employ our normal tactic of spying ahead to find teams to take out and then beating them in a quick fight. Nobody would be able to distinguish them from us at a distance. And once they are all taken out, we can be far enough away. Perhaps even at the tower," Sasuke suggested. "I mean, we have now collected about 7 scrolls, 5 of them are heaven scrolls like our own. That means that from the 10 scrolls of heaven we have 6. That reduces the number of teams that can pass down to 5 overall. And a little bit of fighting would be nice. After all, our promotions depend on showing off our skills to the proctors. All right. I guess that would be the best course of action." "Shadow Clone Jutsu," Naruto said, and 14 teams of clones appeared. 2 of each team transformed into Sasuke and Sakura, and then they took off in different directions. The original team took a detour to the tower to not tip off their pursuer of the real team. If all went as planned, they would be safely at the tower before the Kunoichi could determine which Team 7 was the real one. Orochimaru was getting frustrated. He had finally caught up to Sasuke's team and involved them in a fight, only to find out after 5 minutes of fighting that he had been fooled by shadow clones. All 3 were clones. But thanks to the clones being really good at dodging and ranged attacks, it had taken him too long to realize that the team was really good. From one point he had seen that they had split into many teams, probably all but one being shadow clones. Sadly, you couldn't say which team was a decoy team. So he had followed one that was going in the direction of the tower while sending 2 earth clones out after 2 other trails. This was costing too much time. But it still was intriguing how well the clones fought. Just who was the creator of them? Sasuke, the blonde boy Naruto, or the girl Sakura? He suspected Naruto as he was rumored to have the biggest chakra reserves in his class, but Kabuto had been unable to procure much information after the Sandaime had tightened security in the village. And most of his other spies had been caught before. Kabuto had to lie low for a while to not compromise his position and his ability to fulfill his duty in the planned invasion. So the main idea was having Kabuto collect more information during the exams to give to him. But from the looks of it, the last information that Kabuto had been able to send out, which had been directly after the confirmation which teams had passed the real genin tests, were massively outdated concerning Team 7. He also wondered who had been chosen to succeed his old sensei as Hokage. He didn't think that Jiraiya wanted the job, and Tsunade had left the village years ago and didn't want to come back at all. Well, he would find out during the finals. No matter whom the old fool had chosen, he wouldn't be a match for him. Naruto, Sasuke, and Sakura reached the tower, having to fight one team that had set up an ambush, getting another Earth Scroll, and entered. They had only spent about a day in the forest and had surely decimated the competition. 20 teams had passed the first round, 5 at most could pass the second one thanks to them collecting so many Heaven Scrolls. It would be 4 interesting days in the forest. After all, by limiting the scrolls, they would put other teams under more pressure. And to be honest, the teams that they had taken out weren't anything impressive. A name team had tried to fool them with illusionary clones, but Sasuke had easily seen through them, and Naruto was completely immune to genjutsu on that level. Sakura had simply dispelled it, as genjutsu was one of her strengths. He also had easily sensed where the real ones were hidden underground. By flooding the clearing, they were fighting, and Naruto had the perfect base to send lightning into the ground, driving the 3 out for Sasuke and Sakura to knock them out. An older Konoha team was embarrassingly easy to knock out with a genjutsu by Sakura. They simply fell asleep and Team 7 took their scroll. Now they found themselves in a room with some kind of poem hanging high on one wall. After deducing that they had to open the Heaven and Earth Scrolls now, they took 2, and Naruto immediately recognized a summoning array in them. They threw them away and were ready to take on whoever was summoned if that was part of the test as well. Thankfully it turned out to be Kotetsu, who was greeting them to tell them that they had passed their test. His face when they handed over 2 more Earth Scrolls and 5 more Heaven Scrolls was priceless. "How the hell did you collect so many scrolls in such a short time?" he exclaimed, shocked. "The competition consisted of wimps," Sasuke simply stated, getting a nod from Naruto. "It was too easy to take them out. We had perhaps one interesting fight for a scroll among the 8 teams we beat. One from Taki had a few interesting techniques. But we still had them beaten in 2 minutes. But the one Kusa team had an interesting collection of poisons with them that I took for studying them. Next to a few weapons I liked," Naruto stated. "Yes, we would have been here even faster if you and your clones hadn't robbed all teams. We came across blind," Sakura commented. "There is no reason to leave your enemy with anything that you could use much better than them. And dead ninjas have no need for weapons, scrolls, and money," Naruto declared. "And there are no rules in this round. I can do whatever I want in the forest." "I guess you have a point there. Did you by chance come across some medical scrolls?" she admitted. "Don't know. I haven't had a closer look. If I find one you can have a copy," Naruto agreed. "Thanks. Studying more about techniques that other village might know could be interesting," she said happily. Kotetsu's sweat dropped. Kakashi sure had a weird team. Naruto continued to write down all information that his listening seal gave him. So he overheard the Oto team complaining about being unable to find Team 7 to kill Sasuke, as Orochimaru of all people had ordered them to do. The Kusa Kunoichi turned out to be Orochimaru and fought against Anko Mitarashi, the proctor for this round. He immediately sent a clone transformed into a bird to the Hokage to tell him about it so that Anko could get back up. Kabuto was a spy he found out when he met with Orochimaru in a deserted part of the forest and got new instructions. It seemed that they had messed up some plans by taking so many scrolls and reaching the tower early on. Something about a curse seal. He would have to investigate that more. Otherwise there were some intense fights going on. The team of Guy, Kakashi-sensei's self-proclaimed eternal rival, had problems finding a Heaven Scroll. At the moment there were 3 teams already at the tower. Team 8 had trapped another team using Shino's connection to insects, in this case giant leeches, to get an Earth Scroll. They had come in after the Suna team with Gaara on it that had broken the previous record. So now only 2 more teams could pass. So the teams that got a heaven scroll at the beginning would be the ones that most likely made it through if they didn't get caught by stronger teams. Well, he could probably send a group of his clones into the forest again after the round was over. With so many teams being desperate for a scroll, there would be heavy fights and many deaths, which again meant that he could collect a lot of useful things afterwards. Naruto, disguised as Dark Phoenix, stood in the Hokage's office talking about how they could stop Orochimaru's plans. Naruto had been called as he was the village's only seal master that was currently present. Jiraiya was out to investigate a rumor as Naruto was in the exams. As Naruto wouldn't return to his official residence, which he used to meet with Jiraiya as he had no intention to tell him where he really lived, he didn't trust the man that much. Until after the second round there was more than enough time to check with one of his informants. Kakashi, Anko, and Ibiki were the other ones present. Naruto had passed on the information that Kabuto was indeed a spy and worked for Orochimaru as well, that the Oto team was under his command. It was worrisome, but for the moment they couldn't do anything. Anko had told them that Orochimaru had threatened to attack if they cancelled the Chunin exams. Naruto promised to upgrade the security seals on the village walls immediately after he finished with the second exam. Ibiki would take Kabuto into custody with Kakashi and Guy's help. No matter how good Kabuto might be, against the future Hokage and 2 high-class Jonin he wouldn't have a chance. Naruto also gave them a new seal that he had developed to test after the exams. If it was placed either on the head, the spine, or the heart of someone, it would shut down the chakra circulation of said person immediately, which would make everybody it was used on pass out. He had only tested it with Tora so far, as he said with Naruto's help, a comment which only Kakashi and the Hokage understood, he admitted sheepishly. The other ninjas' sweat dropped at that comment. Though Kakashi could understand it. He had been really sadistic having his team catch that cat so often in the beginning. Nonetheless they agreed to try the seal with Kabuto. They all knew that Dark Phoenix was a genius with seals, and if he thought they would work there was a high possibility that they did. And Tora was no normal cat. I can also report that Naruto Namikaze's test of the identification seals in the Forest of Death was successful. He contacted me after he and his team reached the tower. They work within a distance of 300 meters to inform you that an ally is close by, and you can tell who it is within 20 meters. I suggest placing those seals on all our ninjas for the finals. Well, the Chunin, Jonin and Umbu at least. I don't think it would be wise to include all the Genin. They aren't trained to retain information under pressure long enough, and we can't risk anything of our plans getting out beforehand. Naruto said. You are right. I also want those listening seals on all ninjas. That way we can manage to have an idea what is going on in the parts of the village. Orochimaru won't concentrate on one part, he will attack in several places at once. Kakashi said, looking over a map of the village. The main gate, the southern wall, perhaps from the top of the Hokage monument, inside the arena, and we should look out for underground attacks. Can't we use something to inhibit underground movement? Anko asked. We could place special wires underground that would send chakra disrupting waves out. That way no Earth user could get into the village undetected, but for this to work the attackers would have had to start their work already. From the outer edge of the barrier to the village's walls there are several kilometers to be covered. No way that wouldn't have been noticed. Ibiki said. Naruto nodded, knowing that Danzo would have noticed immediately. His root bases used tunnels like that after all. And he had bugged the tunnels without Root knowing. He could listen into what was spoken in the secret base any time he wanted. There was after all no reason to fully trust Danzo. And his listening seals wouldn't be influenced by a standard privacy jutsu. You needed to know which frequency was used to disable them, and finding the exact one would take time or a major coincidence. So we can safely assume that the attacks will concentrate on areas above the ground. Nonetheless, I would like to have the immediate area around the walls protected, like Hibiki said. It will prevent attempts to dig under them and bring them down that way. Kakashi pointed out. We also need to find out how Orochimaru got in with us having the barriers changed already. We will set a team to both of that after we take out Kabuto. We can't risk him informing Orochimaru. Ibiki said and got nods. The Sandaime let Kakashi lead the meeting. He was the next Hokage and this would soon be completely his responsibility. He and Danzo had done their part as far as they could and taken out all spies that they knew about. Jiraiya had changed the way the barrier worked like Naruto had proposed, which would warn them of large groups attacking immediately, and thanks to Naruto's new invention of flying backpacks they had an 8-person strong unit to fend off aerial attacks. The things the boy could do with seals and ingenuity didn't cease to amaze him. Chapter 26, The Finalists Stand. Team 10 was in hiding in the forest. For some reason this round was much harder than they had thought it would be. In the beginning they had done well and only had bad luck with finding only a team with another heaven scroll like theirs. They had still pocketed it as having a spare would be smart, as Shikamaru pointed out. But now everybody seemed to be after said heaven scrolls. They had listened to 3 other teams thanks to Ino possessing a mouse and spying on them from under a bush. Shikamaru knew that probably the 2 that they had were either the last 2 in the forest or very close to being the last. It was making this whole exercise much more dangerous. They had relied on stealth to stay undetected so far. Now they were really glad that the senseis of the rookie teams had set up so many different challenges to help them develop their skills and had trained them extremely hard. Especially in the weeks following the failed mission to capture Naruto. It had been a major blow but also a much-needed wake-up call, and Shikamaru rather had it that they had been forced to see reality in a safe training mission than in real life where it would have cost them their lives. The hard training had been the deciding factor in them being able to stay alive. The only way to be safe would be getting an Earth Scroll and heading to the tower. But at the tower there would be several other teams that would be waiting to intercept them. Well, in regards to trapping an opponent, nobody could compare to Inara. Ino, Koji, we should get to the tower and ambush one of the teams that are waiting there to ambush other teams. Shikamaru declared. For some reason there are very few heaven scrolls left in the forest, so any team we come by should have an earth scroll if they even have a scroll left. Something happened, even if we can't tell what yet. The longer we stay here, the more dangerous things will become. Okay, Shikamaru. What's the plan? Koji asked. We will stick to the shadows. I have a technique that will make others overlook us as long as we stay in the shadows. My father taught it to me just before the exams. It's similar to a genjutsu. In this forest are more than enough shadows for us to get to the tower quickly. We sneak up to a team that waits for an unexpected team to come by and knock them out quickly. While I can't attack while keeping the jutsu going, you and Ino don't have that handicap. Ino, you did some work with releasing poisons after being hit by Naruto, didn't you? Shikamaru addressed his blonde teammate. Yes, I wanted to know how he could paralyze me with a simply senbon hit. Turned out that my mum was an expert in the area and she taught me some of her secret techniques. I have a supply of senbon needles with releasing poisons with me. That was also the only kind of poison she would let me use until I have built up some resistance to my own poisons. Ino answered. Good. We will use them to paralyze any team we come across and take an Earth Scroll. Then we will go to the tower ASAP without foregoing stealth. If we do this right, we will be out of this troublesome forest before dawn. Shikamaru said. Ino and Koji nodded and the 3 took off, keeping to the shadows. Shikamaru was now very glad that Asuma had also worked on their chakra reserves with them, otherwise using the shadow concealing jutsu wouldn't have been an option at all. It was finally the 5th day after the second round had started and the last team to have arrived at the tower. Team 10 had only made it with 1 hour to spare. Getting through the lines of teams that had taken to ambush others at the tower had been hard and taxing on Shikamaru's chakra reserves. But they had made it by stealing the scroll that they needed from an AIM team. The last 10 meters to the tower had been hard on them as there hadn't been any shadows to hide in anymore, but they had managed by a creative combination of a mass shadow binding jutsu, Koji carrying a log towards the entrance of the tower while Shikamaru kept the other teams bound who tried to intercept them, and a quickly executed replacement technique through the door that Ino held open. Shikamaru only hoped that he could rest a bit now. He was exhausted after using chakra constantly for hours. There were only 4 teams that had passed this round. Teams 7, 8, 10, and the Suna team. If you considered that 20 teams had started this round, it was a lot of teams failing this stage. From the brief conversation that they had had with Naruto, they found out that Team 7 had been the cause for the lack of heaven scrolls in the forest. They had taken out a lot of teams and collected so many heaven scrolls that it limited the number of teams that could pass down to 5 overall. With Team 10 having 2 heaven scrolls as well, it was down to the 4 teams in the room. They were all assembled in lines facing the Hokage and the Jonin senseis of the passing teams. On top of that there were the proctors for the exams. The Hokage then addressed them and congratulated them to passing the second round of the exams. He also explained the true meaning of the Chunin exams to those that had passed. It was a replacement for the wars of the past to keep balance between the countries. Then he proceeded to explain the last and final round. From here on, you don't fight in teams anymore. In the finals you will face one opponent at a time. The decision if you are promoted depends on how you present yourself in front of the audience, in which there will be our most important clients. It will also be the event that will start the reign of the next Hokage. The Sandaime said, surprising everybody except the Jonins and Team 7. Yes, I have decided to finally retire again. You are the first ones to be told who my successor will be. The rest of Konoha and the dignitaries will be informed tomorrow. Kakashi stepped forward. As you probably all know, this is Kakashi Hatake, he is the Godame Hokage. The Sandaime said, and the Genin and Jonin of Konoha bowed to the chosen successor of the Sandaime. The Sunanins were surprised by the announcement. This complicated the plans for the invasion massively. They hadn't expected to have to fight against a young and powerful Hokage. They would need to talk to the Kazekage as soon as possible. Perhaps they should rethink their involvement with the planned invasion. Kakashi Hatake had managed to rise to S rank in all bingo books over the last 6 months since he had taken up a Genin team which was now participating in the finals of the exams. It was unheard of that a ninja could bring a team to the finals of the Chunin exams in such a short time and become an S-ranked ninja at the same time. They couldn't underestimate this opponent. Thank you for the show of respect, Kakashi said seriously. As the next Hokage, I will now explain just how the finals will go. As Sandaime-sama said, we will test you in one-on-one fights. It will happen in a tournament. Therefore you will all draw numbers now, which will tell you which opponent you will face in the finals. Step forward one by one, draw a piece of paper and tell us your number. The first ones to go were Team 10, who stood to the right, next were Teams 8, 7, and last the Suna team. I have 3. Ino announced. 7. Koji said. Troublesome, I have 11. Shikamaru announced. 2. Kiba declared happy to be in the first fight. 10. Shino stated. 4. Hinata said and looked at Ino, who would be her opponent. 1. Sakura said. 6. Suzuki announced. 9. Naruto said, looking at Shino. 5. Kankuro announced. 12. Tamari said. 8. Gaara ended the process. Very well, then this are the pairings for the finals. First match is Sakura Harano vs. Kiba Inuzuka, Second match will be Ino Yamanaka vs. Hinata Hyuga. Third match is Kankuro Sabuka vs. Suzuki Uchiha. Fourth match Koji Akimichi vs. Gara Sabaku. Fifth match Naruto Namikaze vs. Shino Abarame, and last but not least Shikamaru Nara vs. Tamari Sabaku. Kakashi called out the pairings. You get 1 month to prepare for your fights. You don't know anything about your opponent's strengths and weaknesses, so you should prepare accordingly. Do you have any questions? I have one. Shikamaru said, trying not to show his surprise at the revelation of Naruto's new surname. If this is a tournament, can only one of us become a Chunin? No, that's not the case. You will be judged on your abilities during your fights. Theoretically, if you fought well and your qualification was acknowledged, you could be promoted even if you lost your first fight. But more fights will of course give you more opportunities to show your abilities. Kakashi answered. After that there were no more questions and the teams were escorted out of the tower by their respective senseis. Team 7 stayed behind. Alright, over the next month I will be busy preparing to take over the position of Hokage, so I don't have the time to train you for the finals. I have arranged for a teacher for each of you who will help you with your respective strengths. Naruto, Jiraiya-sama will return tomorrow to start your training and will meet you at your usual training ground. Kakashi told his blonde student and got a nod with an indicated smile in return. Sakura, you will be training with Shizune, the apprentice of Tsunade-sama. She is a high-class medic nin. We could convince Tsunade-sama to let her come here for the month to train you. Sakura was very happy to hear that she got to train under an apprentice of the famous Tsunade-sama. What Kakashi didn't say was that they had offered Tsunade a lot of money to come back, knowing that she had a lot of outstanding debts to pay. While she had refused, she had offered Shizune's service in her stead, which they had accepted as at least the next best option. Suzuki, you will be training with Yamato, a Numbu captain. He informed his last student, who looked pleased to hear that. Now remember, there will be no allies in the finals, but I don't want you to regard any Konoha ninja as an enemy. Give your best no matter who you have to face, even if it is your best friend. But don't use any crippling moves against ninjas of Konoha. All three nodded seriously. Naruto, both your identity and my new position will be announced tomorrow, so you might want to take measures to not be mobbed. Kakashi told him. No problem, sensei. I can vanish completely if I want to. Naruto said confidently. The other two members of Team 7 knew just how true that was. They had after all done a training mission that showed them exactly how good Naruto was at staying hidden. The Raikage sat in his office reading the announcement of the finalists of the Chunin exams. He had to read it twice to fully grasp the information. Not only had Konoha finally published the long-awaited photo of one Naruto Uzumaki, even if he was really Naruto Namikaze, son of the Yellow Flash, they had also announced that Kakashi Hatake was chosen as Godame Hokage. This was really big news. How he wished that he could watch the finals in person, but Konoha had put up high security measures, and without a team of Kumo Genin in the exams he could hardly rectify going to see them. Perhaps he could have a spy infiltrate as part of the delegation the daimyo would undoubtedly take with him. He called his assistant in to arrange said spy in the delegation. The Mizukage looked interestedly at the pictures of the finalists in the Konoha Chunin exams. She had to admit having the son of the Yellow Flash in the finals was very good for publicity. Many clients would travel to Konoha just to see that boy in action. On top of that, the heirs of the major clans in Konoha were in the finals. It would attract a lot of interest, and if the genin of Konoha, all interestingly rookies from the data that was published about them, gave a good show of their abilities, Konoha would get many missions. But at the moment she wouldn't act. Keeping Kiri neutral was for the best for now. They had a lot of rebuilding to do after the Civil War. They had lost a good part of their military, and while the rebels had won, there were still remains of Yagura's troops that simply didn't want to accept the change. Others, while not that hard-headed, needed time to work together with bloodline limit holders again. Years of mistrust were hard to overcome. Orochimaru raged reading the announcement of the finalists. Not only was his old sensei giving the position that should have been his to the Hatake brat, no, the son of the man that had been chosen over him for the position of Yondaime was in the finals. He was one of Sasuke's teammates. The boy would be a problem, and to his annoyance Kabuto hadn't reported back yet. He would have a serious conversation about the quality of the information that Kabuto had collected. It was obvious that the Sandaime and the future Godaime thought that the boy was ready to be announced as his father's son, which meant he had to be at least low Jonin level. Otherwise the chance for assassination attempts being successful was too great. He wondered if he could get IWA to join in the invasion now. Having more manpower would be massively useful. In IWA the Tsuchikage was laughing his ass off. Many wondered why he had started to laugh like that when he had read the announcement of the participants of the Konoha Chunin exams. Most of the ninjas of IWA that read that the son of the Yellow Flash was participating wanted to kill the boy. The Tsuchikage didn't want to do that. No, the reason why he was laughing so hard was that the old monkey Sarutobi had managed to pull this stunt off. This was the first time that anybody had heard even a whisper about a son of the Yondaime Hokage. No, it would be completely foolish to act on grudges against the boy's father. He would put the boy into the bingo books with a warning. He wouldn't stop any of his ninjas if they came across the boy during a mission, but if the boy was anything like his father, you didn't want to get on his bad side. Stories of the merciless Yellow Flash were told en masse during the Third War. There was a reason that Minato Namikaze got a flee on-sight warning in the bingo book. He normally didn't bother you if you stayed away, and he was deadly in a fight. Oh, being the leader of IWA would be interesting the next few years. The boy had to be strong to be revealed now. Perhaps he should offer a reward for the ninjas that could catch him alive. Offering a reward for his death would be bad, as it would distract his ninjas from their missions. He knew the grudges against the Yellow Flash ran deep, but it was long time that the dead were let rest. War was nasty, and even if Minato Namikaze had been the one to kill most of their troops, in war ninjas and civilians alike died. Those that survived needed to go on with their lives. And blaming the son for the deeds of a father the boy had never known was stupid to the extreme. Over the next month all the genins in the finals were really busy, even Shikamaru. He had realized that if he hadn't learned the shadow concealment jutsu there would have been only one outcome of the second round, his team would have died, and that scared him more than anything else. He realized that he wouldn't be able to live with himself if he allowed any of his comrades to die if he had the power to prevent it. He had wanted to become an average ninja to have an easy life. But the additional work he had been forced to do by Asuma and his father had saved their lives in the forest of death. So here he was, reading up on the next family jutsu that he was set to learn. On top of that he was doing physical training together with Asuma, Ino, and Koji every morning. He needed speed against a wind user like Temari to escape her long-range jutsus that she would undoubtedly unleash with her war fan. Similar things were going on with Team 8. They did physical training in the mornings and training with their clans in the afternoons. Even Hayashi Hyuga was impressed with the achievements of his daughter. She had developed well over the last 6 months, and that she had managed to qualify for the Chunin exams finals after only 6 months of being a genin was impressive. She had also asked him for help with developing a jutsu based on Kaiten. She had flat out told him that she didn't have the necessary chakra reserves to pull off Kaiten, but she had way better chakra control than most other Hyugas, and therefore she had thought up a new jutsu that was similar in its defensive abilities. He had told the children of the clan, including her sister Hanabi, to help Hinata with her training by throwing blunted kunao at her to defend against them. He was curious if she would manage to finish her new jutsu before the finals started. He was a bit disappointed that Niji hadn't passed too, but that was the result of not being fast enough to get the right scroll. It was a risk that was always present in Chunin exams, and he would have another chance in 6 months. Niji's team had collected most of the remaining Earth scrolls in the forest, but sadly no Heaven scroll. Shino was working massively as he had got the hardest opponent of them all. Naruto was Jonin level, there was no doubt about it, and normally he wouldn't be able to beat him. He would need to think of something to take him by surprise. So he had conversed with his father what could work. He had got some secret clan jutsus that might work, but Shivi had warned him that namikazes were famous for their speed. Even without his flying thunder god jutsu, Minato namikaze had been incredibly fast. So Shino was also training in his speed to be able to at least dodge fast attacks. Shivi had called in a favor from a Jonin called Guy, who had arranged for Shino to regularly spar with Rock Lee, a genin a year older than him. The boy couldn't use chakra for nin and genjutsus thanks to malformed chakra coils, but he was incredibly fast. It was perfect to work on taijutsu and speed against the boy, even if his mannerisms were really taking time to get used to. Kakashi had called Naruto to discuss some things with him. He knew that he needed to keep contact with his team, especially Naruto and Sasuke. It had been the intention of the bonding he had done over the last 6 months. And he was happy to say that Naruto had opened up to him at least a little bit. "Hello Naruto, how is your training with Jiraiya coming along?" Kakashi asked. "Hello Kakashi-sensei. My training is going well. We are mostly working on cooperation with the toads and some special jutsus," Naruto said. "We also think that once I have mastered cooperation with the toads to a certain level, they might allow me to sign my clan's summoning contract next to theirs." Gamabunta said if I could prove that I was worthy of the help of the toads and was willing to use both summoning clans equally, he wouldn't void my contract with the toads, because the second one is a clan contract and the summons operate in different areas than the toads. "That's good to hear, Naruto. If I may ask, which animal was the summoning partner of the Uzumaki clan?" Kakashi asked. "It's seagulls. Being an island nation, having scouts in the air was invaluable, and they also weren't hindered by the sea that surrounded Whirlpool Country," Naruto answered. "The biggest ones, as far as I read in Mum's journal, were about as big as doubly to triple the size of a large eagle. Most of the bigger ones also could use water jutsus and speed attacks. All of them were able to use wind jutsus, which makes sense with them being birds. That sounds indeed useful. And it wouldn't clash with the abilities of the toads." Kakashi agreed. "What kind of jutsus are you working on? You already had a really impressive repertoire. Mostly wind and water jutsus. The wind jutsus I mostly create myself now, because there aren't many out there that are known in Konoha. It's not that much of a surprise because wind elementals are really rare. I think of the currently active ninjas in Konoha, only Asuma-sensei has it, and of the retired ones I only know of Danzo Shimura," Naruto mentioned. "How did he take your little visit at the root headquarters, by the way?" Kakashi asked. "It went better than I thought. We managed to come to an agreement with which we can both live. I think he is highly amused, even if he would never show that. Roots don't have emotions after all and that crap, with how I manage to confuse all people and still don't get noticed when I don't want to. He tries tracking me, but I normally easily lose the one he puts on my trail. Though the Inquisitor isn't bad. Gave me some problems until I found a way to slip away from his trailing me," Naruto commented, grinning. "You honestly enjoy tricking them, don't you, Naruto?" Kakashi asked, amused. "Of course I do. Do you know how boring it can be if I only get to deal with the lazy Chunin and Jonin of the village? I could outthink the Chunin with 9, and it only took until I turned 10 to force Grandpa Hokage to send Jonin after me after a flashy prank, because I didn't figure out how to do chakra suppression before that, and therefore Iruka-sensei could find me with his sensor abilities. When he couldn't sense me anymore, no Chunin could find me, which caused that finding me was being upgraded to a Jonin mission. Naruto said proudly. Kakashi could only shake his head. He knew that Naruto was a prodigy, but it was a slap in the face of the village military to have this pointed out so directly. Naruto had been a sabotaged academy student with 8. It showed how much the village needed to improve if a then probably genin level boy could get away from ninjas that held a higher rank than him. Well, the Chunin had been forced to go to boot camp with Guy to make up for deficiencies, and the Jonin were given to Anko, who gleefully saw to that task. So, do you plan to use your dad's signature jutsus for the finals? Kakashi asked. Probably. It depends how much I am pushed. Shino will do all he can to at least force me to take him seriously. Not that he can really do much, as I have too much chakra for his bugs to take from me. They will be full before I truly notice it. But he is smart and will come up with some good strategies. I'm really looking forward to it. Shikamaru and Temari will also be interesting opponents, depending on who wins the fight. Shikamaru normally should be able to outthink Temari, but if he doesn't want to face me, he might quit after having shown his skills. He got a major shock in the second part of the exams when towards the end his team had the last remaining Heaven Scrolls. He realized that being too weak can get you and your team killed, and as much as he likes slacking off, he wouldn't do that at the cost of others' lives. Naruto analyzed. True. We can expect high-class fights. The one I am a bit concerned about is Koji against Gaara. We have confirmed that Gaara is the Ichibai Jinchuriki, and it is concerning that he was sent here while Orochimaru is about to launch an attack against the village. We aren't sure yet if Suna is involved in his plans, but their economic problems would make them an easy target for Orochimaru. Kakashi informed Naruto. Don't worry. If Gaara goes too far, I will get Koji out of there the last moment. I won't allow Gaara to kill any of my comrades. The other rookies have proven to me that I can count on them in case I need backup, so I will return that favor when I can. Naruto said, knowing his sensei would be happy to hear that. You are aware that I have long figured out the plan to let me connect more to my peers by doing that crossover training with the other rookie teams and even the rare sparring matches with Guy's team. Kakashi chuckled. I told the Sandaime that you would. You are too smart to not notice something that obvious. Though it wasn't only for your benefit, but theirs as well. By letting them see your level, they were more motivated in their training to not fall back too far behind you. Some would have complained a lot more about the harshness of the training they had to do if they hadn't seen what they could face by having to go up against you. Which I guess was your intention. Kakashi said. Maybe. I prefer having capable backup instead of hindrances. And some of them never did anything wrong to me at the academy. Shikamaru, Koji, and Kiba even hang out with me sometimes when we skipped classes. Naruto said. That was quite nice. Kakashi suspected that there was more to Naruto's plans, but for now he didn't ask more. He first needed to earn more of the blonde's trust, which took a lot of time. But that he revealed as much as he did was already a success. That's it for this reading. Hit like and subscribe for a free ticket pass going to the different worlds of anime fanfictions. Looking forward to having you on board again.